When 19-year-old Sophia Carter walked into the courtroom alone, every pair of eyes turned to her. The silence felt heavy, amplifying the weight of her nervous steps as she clutched her papers tightly. It was impossible to ignore her petite frame, modest sweater, and worn-out sneakers. Whispers rippled through the air, a blend of curiosity and ridicule. With a stack of disheveled papers clutched in her hands, Sophia didn't look like someone who stood a chance in this courtroom. The Kingsford County Courthouse, which had borne witness to hundreds of verdicts over the years, felt unusually heavy today. Presiding over the case was Judge Evelyn Harper, a woman renowned for her stern demeanor and no-nonsense attitude. Everyone in the room knew she didn't tolerate weak arguments or unprepared defense. The case at hand was a minor traffic violation, but for Sophia, it was an opportunity to prove herself. As Judge Harper's sharp gaze bore down on her, the room waited, expecting this to be a quick and unremarkable loss. Little did they know, Sophia was about to change their minds entirely. Sophia stood near the defense table, her eyes scanning the crowded courtroom. She tried to steady herself, but her nervousness was evident in the way she clutched the stack of papers in her hands. A few soft chuckles rippled through the gallery, making Sophia lower her gaze slightly. From the bench, Judge Evelyn Harper arched an eyebrow as she looked down at the young woman. With her neatly pinned-up hair and thin-rimmed glasses, Judge Harper was well known for her directness and harsh demeanor. To her, this case was insignificant, a minor speeding ticket dispute, defended by an inexperienced young woman representing herself. "Ms. Carter," she began, her tone cold and clipped. "Do you realize that this court does not take kindly to individuals showing up unprepared?" Sophia swallowed hard, determined to keep her voice steady. "Yes, Your Honor, I do." The faint murmurs of laughter from the gallery didn't escape her ears. Judge Harper pursed her lips, clearly unimpressed. She leaned back in her chair, folding her arms across her chest. "Very well," she said with a hint of mockery. "Let's see what you've got." Sophia took a deep breath, her legs trembling slightly as she stepped forward, but inside, a spark of determination began to flicker. This wasn't just about defending herself. It was her chance to prove that she wasn't someone to be underestimated. Sophia stepped forward, her worn sneakers making soft sounds against the wooden floor. Her heart pounded in her chest, each step feeling like a test of her resolve. She glanced briefly at the opposing attorney, a middle-aged man in a perfectly tailored suit with a confident posture. He smirked, as if to say, "This won't take long." Sophia took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every gaze in the room fixed on her. She reminded herself why she was here, to prove her worth not just to them, but to herself. The papers in her hands trembled slightly, but her voice didn't. "Your Honor, I'd like to present a detailed account of the events leading to my receiving this speeding ticket." She began recounting the incident from that day, using clear and precise language. She mentioned the time, road conditions, and even the exact location of the officer who issued the ticket. Each detail was presented carefully, and the room grew noticeably quieter as she spoke. Then Sophia surprised everyone by citing a specific law from the California Vehicle Code. "Your Honor, according to Section 40802AB, the method used to determine my speed may not be valid under these conditions." The courtroom collectively held its breath. Judge Harper paused her note-taking and looked up, her interest piqued. The opposing attorney, who had been lounging comfortably in his chair, now sat up straighter. Sophia wasn't finished. She unfolded a diagram she had drawn herself. It wasn't flashy, but it was meticulous. She pointed to the precise placement of the radar, explaining why its angle couldn't have provided an accurate reading of her speed. The faint chuckles that had filled the room earlier were now entirely gone, replaced by an attentive silence. Judge Harper leaned slightly forward, for the first time appearing genuinely intrigued. Sophia kept her gaze steady on the opposing attorney, her expression calm yet determined. Before she could continue, the attorney rose to his feet, his tone carrying an edge of irritation. "Your Honor, this argument is irrelevant. The statute the defendant is citing does not apply to this case." Sophia maintained her composure, her voice respectful but unwavering. "Your Honor, with all due respect, the statute does apply. If I may, I'd like to explain why." She stepped toward the evidence table, opening her folder and pointing to a specific line in the legal document she had brought. "This statute clearly states that if a radar device is not properly calibrated, its results cannot be accepted as valid evidence." The courtroom fell silent. Every eye was on Sophia, and even Judge Harper couldn't hide her growing curiosity. The opposing attorney, visibly caught off guard, tried to counter. "But calibration records are standard procedure. We're not required to provide them on demand." Sophia gently raised her hand, not to interrupt, but to request permission to proceed. "Standard procedure is not proof," she said. "The law requires explicit verification, not assumptions. Without the calibration record, this evidence is unreliable." The murmurs from the gallery resumed, but this time they were filled with surprise and agreement, not ridicule. Judge Harper leaned forward in her seat, setting her pen down, her expression shifting from skepticism to genuine respect. "Miss Carter," she said, her tone noticeably softer for the first time, "you seem to have a deeper understanding of legal processes than most beginners. Where did you learn this?" Sophia hesitated for a moment before replying. "Your Honor, I've been studying law since I was 14 years old, and I passed the bar exam last year when I was 18. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Gasps rippled through the gallery, and even the opposing attorney widened his eyes in disbelief as he looked at Sophia. After a few heavy seconds of silence, Judge Harper leaned back slightly in her chair, her eyes reflecting a mixture of surprise and admiration. "You really passed the bar exam at 18, she asked, her tone now noticeably less stern. "Yes, Your Honor," Sophia replied, her voice calm but firm. "I've always had a passion for the law, and that's why I spent years studying on my own to achieve this goal." The courtroom remained silent, but the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Where there had been doubt and mockery before, there was now a clear sense of respect for Sophia. But she wasn't done yet. Turning back to her materials, Sophia continued to explain the key points of her argument. She cited additional statutes, referenced legal precedents, and posed questions that left the opposing counsel visibly uneasy. "Can you confirm that the radar was calibrated on the day of the incident?" Sophia asked the opposing attorney, her tone respectful but pointed. The attorney, now looking visibly unsettled, stammered his response. "We don't have that documentation readily available, Your Honor." Sophia nodded slightly. "Then, without that documentation, this evidence cannot be considered reliable under the law." The murmurs from the gallery grew louder. Some people nodded in agreement, while others sat silently, clearly impressed by Sophia's composure and expertise. Judge Harper, now fully engaged, studied Sophia with a thoughtful expression. "Miss Carter, I must say I didn't expect this level of preparation. I'm genuinely impressed." Sophia offered a slight nod in acknowledgement. "Thank you, Your Honor." Sophia took a deep breath, her petite shoulders now steady and firm, her gaze locked on Judge Harper's, confident but respectful. "Your Honor," she began, her voice clear and steady, "this case is not just about a speeding ticket, it's about fairness." Her words hung in the air, drawing the judge's full attention as murmurs of realization spread through the gallery. She continued, systematically dismantling the prosecution's arguments. She explained that without the radar's calibration records, the evidence presented was unreliable. She also highlighted inconsistencies in the officer's report, casting doubt on its accuracy. "Your Honor," she said, her tone lowering slightly to emphasize her point, "if we accept unclear evidence, we not only break the law, but we also undermine trust in the justice system." Judge Harper, now leaning forward with her chin resting on her hand, studied Sophia intently. The opposing attorney stood, attempting to interject. "Your Honor, this is merely twisting technicalities. It holds no real significance." But before he could finish, Judge Harper raised her hand to silence him. "Sit down, counselor." Her tone was calm but commanding. Sophia glanced around the room, meeting the focused stares of the gallery. Then she lifted her folder. "I have prepared a motion to dismiss the charges based on the deficiencies in the evidence." The courtroom held its collective breath as Judge Harper accepted the folder from Sophia. She flipped through the pages carefully, her expression difficult to read. After a few moments, she looked up, her eyes locking on to Sophia's. "This motion," she began, pausing briefly, "is remarkably well prepared, far beyond what I've seen from most first-year attorneys." The murmurs in the gallery returned, but this time the judge did not silence them immediately. She turned to the opposing attorney. "Counselor, do you have a rebuttal?" The attorney stood, hesitation evident. "No, Your Honor. The defendant has presented a compelling argument." Judge Harper looked back at Sophia, her tone carrying a warmth rarely heard in her courtroom. "Ms. Carter, I officially grant your motion to dismiss the charges. Court is adjourned." The sound of the gavel echoed through the room, followed by a brief silence before applause erupted. Sophia stood still for a moment, her face a mixture of relief and pride, her eyes shining with quiet determination. As the applause began to fade, Sophia remained still, momentarily stunned by the support she had just received. Her eyes quickly turned to Judge Harper, who had stepped down from the bench, but stopped unexpectedly near Sophia. "Miss Carter," the judge said, her tone now filled with respect, "I misjudged you when you first walked into this courtroom. You have not only demonstrated a profound understanding of the law, but also reminded us all of the true purpose of justice." Sophia shook her head, a soft smile playing on her lips. "Thank you, Your Honor, that means a lot to me." As Sophia exited the courtroom, she was caught off guard by the scene awaiting her. Reporters had gathered in the hallway, cameras flashing incessantly. One of them stepped forward, microphone extended. "Sophia Carter, is it true that you passed the bar exam at just 18 years old?" one reporter asked. "Miss Carter, did you expect to win today?" another shouted over the noise. Sophia raised her hand slightly, signaling for calm. Her expression was steady, her eyes filled with quiet determination. "I came here to defend myself just like anyone else would," she replied simply. "I didn't expect anything except fairness, and that's exactly what I received." Sophia's words seemed to resonate, energizing the atmosphere around her. Her story quickly went viral on social media, with clips of her closing argument amassing millions of views within hours. Comments ranged from admiration for her brilliance to outrage over how she was initially treated. Sophia walked home in silence, but inside she felt a sense of relief. She hadn't just won her case, she had proven that talent and perseverance could rise above bias and judgment. Sophia's story didn't end in the courtroom. Within hours, the video of her final argument had gone viral, becoming a focal point of attention across social media. Millions of views and thousands of comments poured in, with many praising the young woman's resilience and talent. "She's an incredible role model," one commenter wrote, "not just smart but also incredibly brave." However, not everyone was supportive. Some skeptics claimed that Sophia's success was merely luck or an exception to the rule. Yet for most people, her story highlighted something far more significant: the power of breaking through deeply ingrained societal biases. Legal organizations and advocacy groups quickly took notice of Sophia. Several law firms extended internship offers, while schools invited her to share her story to inspire students. She became a symbol of perseverance and belief in justice, particularly for young people who had been underestimated. Meanwhile, Judge Evelyn Harper also found herself in the spotlight. In an interview with the press, she candidly admitted that the experience had changed her perspective. "A day in the courtroom taught me more than years on the bench ever could," she said. "Sophia Carter reminded me that justice should never hinge on initial assumptions." The impact of Sophia's case extended beyond her personal victory. It sparked broader conversations about how society judges individuals based on appearance, age, or circumstances. Though Sophia had now become a household name, she remained humble. When asked how she felt about her victory, she simply replied, "I wasn't trying to prove anyone wrong. I just wanted to prove myself right." Months after the courtroom event, Sophia continued to pursue her goals. Despite the widespread attention she had received, she remained focused on her path forward. For her, this was not just a personal victory but also a responsibility to help others overcome their own barriers. At a community event, Sophia was invited to speak in front of hundreds of attendees, including young students, teachers, and social advocates. Standing on stage, she looked out at the hopeful faces and began to share her journey. "I didn't walk into that courtroom to prove anyone wrong," Sophia said, her voice warm and sincere. "I walked in to prove myself right. We all face moments of doubt, but those moments aren't walls blocking our way. They're doors waiting to be opened." The audience erupted into applause as Sophia's words resonated deeply, but she remained humble. For Sophia, her journey was far from over. She planned to continue her education, fight for fairness in the legal system, and mentor young people who face challenges similar to her own. Sophia's story was more than a reminder that talent can emerge from anywhere. It was a call to action. For everyone who heard her story, it was an opportunity to rethink how we judge others. "When you look at someone and think you've figured out their entire story," Sophia said in a later interview, "ask yourself, what might I be missing?" Her words were met with a thoughtful silence, as if each listener began to reevaluate their own assumptions. Her words became a powerful reminder. They urged all of us to look beyond appearances, judge less and listen more, creating space for hidden potential to thrive. Sophia Carter had become a symbol of perseverance and belief in justice. But for her, this story wasn't just about her own victory. It was about the hope that it would inspire others to walk through their own doors.